right. Well, once again, thank you all for coming to this session. We are talking about building next-level web apps with FileMaker. There's a bit of a pun in there. We'll see if you can catch it by the end. Otherwise, ask me in the Q&A. My name is Eric Luce. I live in Salina, Kansas, and I have 2 young boys with another one on the way in just a few months. So excited to have them. Outside of work, I love playing board games. So if anyone else likes those, catch me after. Maybe we'll get around the table tonight. I've been using FileMaker for about 10 years now, which is crazy to say. But in the last few years, I focused a lot on web development in general. And so when I've given these kind of talks in the past, I've always had the mindset of, well, what can I learn? What have I learned from this web development world that I can bring back into the FileMaker community? But today I want to do the opposite. And I want to bring all of you along with me into the web dev world. And I believe that you can become a web developer. Yeah? Yes? Okay, if you don't believe me, just hang in there. It'll be okay. Okay? I'm here today to encourage you. This is going to be a bit of a mix between like a technical session, very deep technical session, and also a motivational speech. Okay? Say it with me. I believe I can be a web developer. Yes, I can do it. Okay? We'll try this again. If you don't believe me yet, hopefully you will soon. Okay? Because here's the reality of it. You know, I'll cut to the chase. I really do believe that you are capable of learning how to and actually building a web app. Part of the reason for this is because, you know, the basic programming concepts that you already know from FileMaker, they're the same. Everyone knows how to do loops and variables, and you know about data, and sometimes you need to cache that data to make it a little faster, right? So far, that's nothing new. You know, and really, understanding what your users, what your clients want, that's the hard part. But FileMaker devs are really good at that. So you're already a little bit of a leg up anyway. So really, we're only talking about maybe learning a new language, maybe learning a new coding tool, right? And you know, those pieces, AI is really good at that. So AI can do a lot of work to help you there too. So if you want to skip my presentation, maybe the room's too full, maybe you're watching this later, you can get out your phone now. This is fine. Take a photo of this screen. This website is effectively the written version of my presentation. This has everything. I'll come back to this later too, but feel free to take a picture of this now and before we dive into it and save this for later. This is really, I don't think you need my slides. That's all you'll need at the end anyway. So anyway. So yeah. So let's, but before we get started, I do want to kind of address the elephant in the room, which is why? Why are we doing this? Why are we all here? I assume that maybe since you saw the title that you want to build some kind of next level web app. So I probably don't need to tell you why you want to build some kind of next level web app. But we really got to break that down for a minute and think about it. Why do we use web technology? Right? One of the reasons that I think of is really in today's modern world, all users expect software to be delivered via a browser. Right? That's a big reason. And even a lot of the desktop apps that we use these days, they're web wrappers of web code, right? And obviously, there's lots of ways that we can use web technology. We can use it in browsers. We can also use it in web viewers inside of FileMaker. You've heard about Studio is going to have custom views. You're going to build custom web components there. So web technology is all around us. And we've probably heard about some of its benefits. And you'll probably see a few more of them today. But really, I just want to hopefully head off this question before you ask it is, why don't we use this framework? Or why don't we use, I don't know, you can call it any framework, fill in the blank with whatever you think you might be using. Or maybe you'll say, whatever I'm about to show. And I'll just preface this too, that every tool, every framework is going to have its trade-offs. So what I show you today may not be the best for your use case. But also, it has its own advantages. So you'll have to evaluate that, and every project might be a little different. But we're gonna dig into how do we do this with web code. Okay. So now you're going to be asking, wait, but isn't it hard? Right? I saw some of your faces. You didn't all scream, I believe. But we'll come back to that. Okay. So why do we perceive this web apps to be so hard? I've talked with a lot of developers, especially FileMaker developers. And some of the things they tell me is like, well, I don't have enough learning time. It's too much to learn, right? Or I don't even know where to start. I've tried to look into there, and that web world is so vast that what am I going to do? There's too many options. How do I know what to pick? You might just say JavaScript is new language to me. Those kind of things. Or, this is my favorite one. Let me know if anyone's heard this myth that a FileMaker server isn't fast enough to support a web app. Has anyone heard that? Okay, good. Good. That myth has been busted. Great. I was going to bust it today, but you'll see. Anyway, great. So anyway, the best way to learn is by doing. So let's just dive in. Is everyone okay if we just do a live demo? Okay, you can follow along if you want, but it's probably going to go fast because what I want to do is do a very broad demo of what's possible and not dive too deep into the technical specifics. So hopefully with that pace, we'll have time for lots of questions, and you'll find me after if we want to dive even deeper, but I've only got an hour. So let's get started. Can everyone see this okay? I can make it maybe a little bigger. Okay. So I have got, this is just a terminal window. So far, so good. I've already got a couple things pre-installed that you'd need for any web project. I've just got Node, and I've got a package manager. Which one comes with Node? I've got one that's a little bit better. So I'm going to type my command, pm create ProofKit. And I'll double check again that everyone can see this okay, or I can make the text bigger too. Is this good? A little bigger? Okay. What will our project be called? Simple enough. Let me just walk through this. I have a demo file, obviously, that I've been working with, so I know I'm going to be calling this called Foxtail. Don't ask me where I got this name. It's just what it's called. And now it's going to ask me, what kind of app do I want to build? Maybe I want to build a web app for browsers or for web viewers. We're going to focus on browsers mostly, but if we have time, hopefully we do, I can show you a little bit of the web viewer side as well. So it's added a boilerplate. And now it wants to know, do I want to connect to a FileMaker database? Well, yeah, sure. So I'll say yes, and I'll paste in my FileMaker server URL and hit enter. And this is going to, I was already logged into the server, so it already just said login successful. So this is great. I can just close that window. And now I'm seeing all of the files on that server. So what file do I want? Now, if you are doing this yourself and you want to just play with it, you can just use that top option. It says deploy a new demo file. That's where my demo file is, by the way. If you want it, you install it on your server. I already have one, of course, so I'm going to click, scroll down to my Foxtail file and use that. And now it's going to ask me for a data API key. So data API keys from AutoFMS are just a placeholder for your actual username and password. I've already got that set up, so it's prompt. I've already done that before. So it's just going to prompt me, do you want to use this existing data API key? If you didn't already have one, you could just create a new one and you just enter your credentials here. But I'll just use my existing one. And now that it has credentials to my file, it's going to ask for what layouts do I want to connect to in that file. So I've got a couple of them that I've prefixed with this API. So it pushes those to the top, and we're going to load from our customers table. It's all fake data too, so don't worry about that. And then it's just asking me for a friendly name. I'll just hit enter again just to accept the default. And now it's doing a few more things. It's spinning around. It's looking really cool. And we have to let it sit because it's a live demo and I'm just filling space, but it's okay. Asking for my fingerprint. That's all good. Okay, we're done. All right, we've got a web app. And if you don't believe me, I'll show you here. I'm just going to hit open and show you. This is on my other screen. All it did here is it created a new folder called Foxtail. I know it's a little small. In my Finder, and it's telling me in my next steps that I need to open up the rest of this in my code editor. I've got my project created. Now I'm going to dive into it. So I can change directory into that project, or in my case, I'm just going to run the code command for Foxtail, which will open that folder in my code editor. Now, I'm using a code editor called Cursor. I can probably make this a little bigger too. Let's see. Is this okay? Too small? Okay. I'm using one called Cursor. It's very similar to VS Code, which is a free version of this. But it's just an editor, and it's showing me my whole folder of all the stuff I've got in there. And inside of here, I've got my own terminal that I can run the rest of the commands that it asked me to run. So the very next step is to run the dev server. So I run my pm dev command. and it gives me a URL that I can use. And if I, click on this localhost URL, there's my web app. We already got it running. Say, I believe. Can you do it? I believe. OK. I know it's not much. It's just a little example page. But we can do stuff with this app, right? Let's actually, I'm going to skip ahead. Let's cancel the dev server with Control-C. And I'm just going to run pnpm ProofKit as it told me to do. And we're going to expand on this web app and actually add more things. So there's a lot of things that ProofKit, as this CLI tool, will help you do. I want to add components. I want to add a new page. Add my customers page. And what template do we use? I'm going to use this infinite table. I'm also going to launch this file here. This is the API customers layout that I've got running here. I know it's small, but can you see there's 29,000 records in that table? OK, let's see if this web app can handle that. I'm going to run the dev server again, because if I'm making changes to my code, I got to restart my dev server. I got to open up my link again. It's going to refresh. And all of a sudden, I have a new page in my header for my customers page. So let's go there. Data's already loaded. I think it's all the data. Yeah, it's quite a bit of data. OK, I won't start here all day. But really, this is, the secret here is we're only fetching one page at a time. But the user doesn't feel like that. That's kind of the benefit of this web technology, right? But with this table component, I can do sorting, right? I can do filtering on a specific field. I'm going to look for my name here, and I've got some records, right? All of that is loading, by the way, from a live FileMaker file on a hosted server on the internet, right? We're not doing any fancy tricks here. That is just a regular old somewhat publicly available FileMaker server, right? And even better, actually, I'm going to unsort this if I can. I can change the data. I can double click here, change this name to 2, go back to FileMaker, and the data's changed. Back and forth, read and write data from FileMaker. That's pretty good, right? OK. Were you timing me? I forgot to stop you. OK. So this is great, and it works. So this is just like a little helpful note. So let's go in. How would we change? Let's modify this a little bit further, right? So one thing to know, especially if you don't know what you're doing, I'm going to give you a couple tips. First of all, I'm just hiding my terminal there so I have more room. One of the things that you get to do in web development is we have source control. We use Git, which helps you track changes to multiple files across all of your projects. And inside my editor here, I can see that it's made what is this, 15 changes, it says? And it shows me all of the things that the ProofKit CLI has helped me do. And I can make changes to this and say, yep, I added customers page. And this is really helpful to see, as you're learning, you can go through this and you can see what files have changed and how it's changed and where it had to put the files, all of those kind of things that I don't know where to start should help you with, right? But another thing to do is if you don't know where I want to edit this thing, I can just select a bit of text and I'm just going to search, say, where is this? OK, it's in this file, and suddenly I'm right there to edit it, right? It doesn't take too much, and I can make some changes. So let's go ahead and remove this block of text here. I just highlighted it, and I'm deleting it. And if I go back and I refresh my page, it's gone. Everything's. Wait a minute. What happened here?
You have close text box.
I did what?
One tag too much.
No, it's well. I don't think that's the issue. Here's it's fine. Let's just ask AI here. Why is no data loading in my table? I mean, sorry, this is a live demo. It's what you get sometimes, folks. But this is another benefit of AI, right? Is that I don't have to know what's wrong. I can just tell AI something's wrong, and it might fix it. We'll see. And if not, I'll dig a little deeper. But sometimes this is faster. Let's see. It looks like it's trying to run some terminal commands. OK, oh, interesting. Let's see. It said it fixed it, but I don't see. Oh, something a little closer here. But there's nothing in this column. No data in the first name column. Let's see.
While I'm thinking, is that the grid, is it tabulated or what's actually the library?
The library behind it is called Mantine React Table, because the UI library is Mantine. So yeah, we'll get to some of those little things. But yeah, this is, I thought I had this demo prepped, but sometimes it doesn't always go as things. Let's see. Oh, it looks like it found an issue. Oh, wait. Cade, did you rename a field again in my FileMaker file? Oh my goodness, he does this to me all the time. Oh my goodness. But if we refresh, there we go. We got the data back. Okay, so yes, that was a bit staged. I hope you can forgive my. But this is a real world example, right? We've all heard, if you've done web integrations before, you know that if you change a field name, things can break, right? But with the power of AI, built right into my code editor here, I didn't have to know that there was a field name changed. I just said, why is there no data loading, right? And it was able to figure it out. Now, behind the scenes, I can get into the technical things of everything that's going on behind the scenes, but let's move on from now, because I don't know how much time I have left before my stopwatch goes off. I don't think you're actually timing me, are you?
No, you didn't say what.
I forgot. I'm sorry. Okay, well, anyway, you all know it's still only been 15 minutes since we started the whole talk. So anyway, I think this web app is looking okay. I'm sure there's a lot more we can do with it. But before I can really publish it for anyone, I need to make sure it's a bit more secure, right? Because I don't have to log into any of this, and that's no good. I'm just going to make sure I save, okay, fix Cade's bug, fix that, okay. Just always save my changes as I go along. Let's quit out of our dev server, and I'm going to run ProofKit again. And this time, let's add authentication. It's going to give me a couple options. I can add add-on auth or clerk. We'll do FM add-on auth. It's a little bit faster to set up. This is going to ask me for an email provider, because it's going to need to email like password reset codes or email verification codes to users. I'll just do that later, and I can show you how to get those codes in the meantime. And it's going to do this. Oh, I must install the auth add-on in my FileMaker file. Okay, I think I can do that. So it's giving me instructions here to restart FileMaker Pro. So I'll do that. And then I'll just open up my Foxtail file again. That, by the way, is a plug for the Raycast FileMaker extension, which lets you open files directly from your keyboard without having to open FileMaker first. That's my favorite thing to do with it. Anyway, layout mode. Here's my add-ons. And if I scroll down, I should see, oh, there we go, add-on auth. And it's going to spin for a second. Now, I found this bug in FileMaker today. Sometimes it adds a different add-on than the one you selected. So we're going to try again. Maybe it's a feature. I really wanted that add-on, didn't I? Okay. In my experience, you can try this. Maybe on the third time it'll work, right? I choose add-on auth, please.
Saw this in the add-on session.
Did you really? Oh my goodness. Okay, I've never had it work for me.
He recommended try clicking up to like 3 different add-ons, because you scroll up.
Oh.
Selected. Yeah.
How?
Clicking around until you find it still.
Oh, well, thank you. I didn't know how to fix that bug. So if I click on it twice, you're saying?
That one was
So like click on phone numbers or click on something else, like because. Yeah.
Oh, I command clicked on the other one. Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Hey, add-on auth. Okay, so it says it's in there now. So I'm going to come back here and just press enter to continue. It's going to recheck again to make sure those layouts are there. And it's going to do its thing, install some things, and we're all set. So now, if I go ahead and run my dev server one more time, and I go back to my browser and I refresh, I'm prompted to a login page. I just set this up, so I don't have an account yet, so I'll just create my account here. I'll just choose a super secure password. Nobody look, please. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. It's going to ask for my code. Since I didn't set up that email thing, it's just going to put the code right here in my terminal where my dev server is running. So there's a to-do for me to customize the function and actually send an email, however I want to handle that. But I have it there, so I can log in, and now I'm back in. right? And I've got fully authenticated auth in my FileMaker solution, or in my web app connected to FileMaker. The auth is actually in here too. So if I go to my layouts, you'll see I've got a users table that's got my user. It's got a hashed password in here, so I don't need any other service to do this. This is built into my FileMaker file, all tied together. And I can even go, let me use the Command K here, to the sessions table. And this is my logged in session. So if I want to revoke that user from being logged in, I can just delete this record. And next time I refresh, I have to log back in, right? So and I'll do that. So we have a little example here. And there we go. Now I've got fully authentication, just like that, with just an add-on and running a simple command in the terminal. So we're almost done. But as much as I love this web app, I hope you love it. And I have to give it to you, and that means I got to put it on the internet. So let's run ProofKit one more time. And I'm going to run deploy. And this is going to bundle up my project, and it's going to put it up onto a real URL that we can see. I chose the ProofGeist team to do under. This will take a second to do, but it'll be a little bit faster under there. So this is supporting a platform called Vercel, which is there's a free tier of it that does plenty of stuff for what most people need, or we have a paid tier because we do a ton of stuff on there. And it's gonna connect up, it's gonna build up my app, it's gonna package it up, and instead of me having to run my dev server here in this terminal, it'll be running in the cloud for anyone to access under a real URL. The URL is gonna look a little funky. It shows me this here, and it's still building while it goes, but this is a URL that technically any of you could go to, and you could sign up for an account, and then you wouldn't get the email password. But you see, hopefully you are starting to see, right, what we're building here. And again, I'm vamping because this is live, and this is going to take a couple minutes, right? I also just want to point out, and I think I'll share this later, that Vercel is not the only option that you have to do this, but there is a free tier to use it. And it's just what's built in. But there's lots of alternatives here. Like I talked about in the beginning, there's lots of choices, lots of trade-offs with every little step in the chain. So yeah.
On the same server as the FileMaker file?
No, it does not have to live on the same server as the FileMaker file. This is actually going to be hosted in the cloud. Vercel runs off of AWS, for example, and so it'll be running on some AWS. And really, it's running on Lambda functions. That's why they have a free tier. Because if no one's using your site, it doesn't cost you anything. So that's a whole part of how all this works. If I'm impatient, I can click on this and view the logs here, which is a bit like watching paint dry, but I can also tell it's almost done. So,
Will it work
so yeah.
if your solution is on multiple VMs?
Will it work if your solution is on multiple VMs? You'll have to be able to connect to depending on, you can connect to multiple FileMaker sources. This will help you orchestrate that. Yeah. But ultimately, every time you fetch data, you'll have to fetch from a source, right? A single file of some kind, right?
But it can be in a different location.
Right. Deployment's ready. It's got some, Vercel's got stuff. I have to log in again, so let me see if my password still works. And I think so. Hey, we're back in. And now we've deployed our app to a live URL. Okay, I'm going to take a breath. That was fast. Okay, I'm going to go back to my slides for a minute. We'll come back to some demo here, to some more demo as we have time. But I want to take a step back and just remember what we did here. We just built a brand new web app starting from zero, that reads and edits data on your FileMaker server, secured with email password validation, and deployed to a public URL. All in less than half an hour, right? So I think that's pretty cool. What I was showing off is a tool that I built at Proof, a freely available open source tool called ProofKit. So I want to talk a little bit about what ProofKit is and what it's not. First of all, most importantly, it is not a JavaScript framework. If you don't know what a JavaScript framework is, I'll explain that later. But if you do, you're probably happy about that, because there's a joke that there's a new JavaScript framework every day. This is not one of those. Okay, instead, it is a CLI, it is a command line interface that assembles other frameworks for you. Okay? It's also not the only way. As I hinted at earlier, it's not the only way you can build a web app or a JavaScript integration. It is meant to be a learning resource for the new web developer, a personalized starting point so that you can start new pages, new features, your whole app. And it's personalized to your FileMaker file because it can read your fields and your data pretty quickly. And lastly, it is deployable production-ready code. We were able to deploy that to a real URL every step of the way. I like to think of ProofKit as a tool that would help you build an app the way Proof would, orchestrating all of the free tools that we provide and enabling you to do these personalized starting points, writing this production-ready code. As you can see, or you may have noticed, it's built on top of AutoFMS, which is another free tool for your FileMaker server. And it's these kinds of tools, these kinds of integrations, that's like the whole reason we built Auto, is so that we could help enable people like you who want to jump into this kind of stuff. So since I don't have time to go too deep into the code, what I do want to focus on is some learning tips so that as you try this for yourself and you explore the documentation, or you're trying to build a web app and you're just getting started, these are the top things that you need to keep in mind. First of all, embrace errors, right? Errors are your friends. The worst kinds of errors are the ones that you never see, because then you have no idea what's wrong. Errors in JavaScript can look really daunting. They're huge. They may not make any sense. But you can ask Google, you can ask AI, and you'll probably get an answer. And then you'll be surprised over time, probably like how you recognize exactly what a 401 error in FileMaker is. Can anyone tell me? Right? You'll get used to it, right? You'll see that error again. You're like, oh, right, yeah, I've had that one before, right? And it'll become second nature to you, just like it did when you were learning FileMaker. Also, as I showed, use and embrace version control. This is Git. There's like 1,000 different tutorials. If you don't know anything about Git, there's 1,000 different tutorials on how to do it. But the key to, and why it's so important, is it's the undo button for your project. If you make these little commits, you add a little note to say it was working here, then you should feel free to play with the code. You can delete files. You can change all kinds of things. You can, whatever you need to do, the worst case scenario, you can undo across your whole project and go back to that known working state, like when ProofKit built it for you, right? Or whatever you need to do. And lastly, you should embrace AI to learn, but be careful not to use it to skip. Don't skip the learning, right? Learn how the tech stack works. Ask AI to explain things to you, not just, hey, fix that for me, because you're never going to learn that way. So if your goal is to learn and understand, you're going to get better. You're going to get better as it goes along. And you absolutely can and should use AI tools, chatbots, tools like Cursor. You should use those. But just be careful not to let it do too much for you. And speaking of the tech stack, I do want to go over some brief high-level things about how, in general, web apps are built. Then we'll go over a bit more specifically about how ProofKit will do these things. And then I'll show you how you can do it for yourself. So this is the FileMaker tech stack. Hopefully it looks a little familiar to you, right? We've got our FileMaker server up at the top, which includes our database, because our database and all of our functions are all combined together in a single file in FileMaker on the server. And we have these clients down here at the bottom, say FileMaker Go, WebDirect, all these clients, and they have what's known as a persistent connection to the FileMaker server, right? If you lose your internet connection, you get a little spinning wheel. But you also get live updates. When things happen on the server, you get immediate updates. That's what's really great about FileMaker. In the web world, it looks a little bit more like this, where your server is here in the middle, and it does have a semi-persistent connection to the database, which is not on the server itself, but usually some other place. And this server could be a running, long-standing file server like a FileMaker server, or it could be something like a Lambda function or an edge function that just spins up to run some code and spins down. Those are very popular with web apps especially. And Because of that nature, and just because of the nature of web technologies in general, the clients, which in this case is just any kind of web browser, whether that's on your computer, on your phone, in a web viewer in FileMaker, those are all clients, but they don't have that persistent connection. They make a call to the server, get some data, and the server responds with the data or the HTML page or whatever it needs, and then the connection is over until you make another request for more data, right? Those kinds of things, like it's just the basics of you need to make sure you understand that distinction because you don't have that live updating data. There's tools to help with it, but by default, it's all turned off, right? And the key thing here is that as you're learning, what you're going to hear a lot of is this thing called client-side code, or maybe server-side code, or maybe it's known as front-end and back-end code. Has anyone heard those terms before? Maybe? Okay. So I just want to kind of define these a little bit because you're probably going to run into them if you haven't already. Front-end code is the code that runs in a web browser on a user's computer, versus our back-end code is going to run on someone else's computer. Just that's the basics. And front-end code, because it's running in a browser, must be JavaScript, because that's the programming language that all users have in their browsers. Your back-end code could also be JavaScript if you want, but it could be anything because it's your computer that you control. The front-end code is therefore very user-specific, versus the back-end code has to apply to all users. You'd call this maybe a session-specific thing in FileMaker, right? Most importantly, though, the front-end code is insecure, because I'm just sending you that code in your browser, and if you know what you're doing, you can look at it and you can view it and you can change it and you can run different code, right? And you can hack up my app. There's not a way to protect that. It's just the nature of how web apps work. So therefore, you should always keep in mind that front end equals insecure, and only my back end, which is the computer that I control, is secure. Therefore, as we saw in that diagram before, there is no direct connection to the database from the browser. We're always going to go through a server to get to the database and then make sure they're logged in and all those kinds of things. OK, is everyone with me so far? Can I get another I believe? Are we ready now? Can we get it? OK. All right. So here's how ProofKit kind of implements these concepts. ProofKit specifically is the front-end stack, as it were, builds on JavaScript as the base layer, as all front ends must do, as the programming language. It uses React as the JavaScript framework that helps you orchestrate all of the little bits of React and reusable components and state management and all these kind of fun words. It coordinates all that together to make JavaScript just a little bit easier to use. And on top of React, there's what's known as a meta framework called Next.js. I think that was your question from earlier. This whole app was a Next.js app. And Next.js is the framework that takes React code and helps it run on and ties the bridge between both front end and back end. And it also does things like handle page routing, so you can have different URLs in your bar. It helps React become a web framework. Otherwise, React, or I say multi-app framework. Otherwise, React is just for JavaScript. So for ProofKit on the back end, we also have Next.js. And in this example, I showed it running on Vercel. Vercel is also the company, by the way, that sponsors the open source project, which is Next.js. So a lot of people, they do go hand in hand. Vercel is typically the best place to run Next.js code, but it is not the only option. So just throwing that out there. And so on the back end, we've got Next.js running some server-side code as well, also in JavaScript, which is the other benefit here is we don't have to learn 2 new programming languages, just one. Right? And those Next.js server-side functions are talking through AutoFMS to your FileMaker server, back and forth to get the data, passing it through the full stack back down to the front end. And that's your web app. As I said, Vercel is not the only option, just many options for deployment. And technically, even behind the scenes, what we're talking about here is Node.js, typically. Has anyone heard of that before? I hope, right? Node.js is just the underlying layer of Next.js, and it runs on AWS Lambda functions, or it can run on Cloudflare workers, and so on. All right. I hope I didn't bore you too much. Are you ready to get started? Can you do this for yourself? I would love to see you try. This is all it takes to get started. So on your computer, you need Node. You need which is freely available, and there's links on the website and everything too. Node comes pre-installed with npm, which is the Node Package Manager. You saw me using pnpm, which is Performant Node Package Manager. It just works a little bit better, especially with lots of projects. All these acronyms in code, like why do we come up with this stuff? Anyway, you're going to need a code editor like VS Code, also freely available, and you'll need Git installed. If you don't have Git on your system, VS Code will help you install Git. So you get VS Code first, you go to the Git stuff, and it'll help you install all these things. On your server, you obviously need FileMaker server with the data API enabled, port 443 open, and AutoFMS, which is our free tool running version at least 4.7. I think we're on 4.10 now. And then if you want to deploy to Vercel, as I showed, using ProofKit, you're going to need a free GitHub account and a free Vercel account. All of these things that I'm showing you on screen here are free. Obviously with the exception of FileMaker server, but I think you already have a license to that if you're here. Okay, so that's the basics. ProofKit.dev has a getting started guide, has documentation, has additional learning resources. And I think we have, how much do we have, like 20 minutes maybe yet for questions? Is that right? So yes.
What's the difference between a web app and WebDirect? What's the benefit of using that app over WebDirect?
The difference and benefit of web apps and WebDirect, right? So as I said, everything has trade-offs, right? WebDirect has there are things like you can't control the URL, right? You can't necessarily as easily control the sign-in flow. It's not as responsive as building all the code yourself, right? With any other tool, even Next.js, there is some part of this, but it's a bit lower level than most of any other web tool you'll come out with, right? There's like that framework layer that has a lot of stuff in between the browser and your code, right? Which they do that to make that easier. But things like Next.js has a lot less in the way, right? There's still some, like I said, there's still trade-offs, but it's way fewer, and so you have a lot more control of your code, if that makes sense.
WebDirect also won't work over 2 servers.
WebDirect doesn't work on 2 servers, yeah.
I mean, you have more control of your code as in scripting, like FileMaker scripting, or?
You have control over every little detail. It's very, you have to learn JavaScript. Right, yeah, you use JavaScript to do it, yeah. And if we don't have a lot of questions, I can go back into the code too and show more. I can show the web viewer stuff too, which I'm sure maybe some of you are interested in as well. Yeah, do you have a quick question?
I use WebDirect when I can because I've got the interface already built. I've got this nice blue thing and my logo's up here. It looks pretty. So I just said WebDirect and oh wow, look, it's on the web.
Mm-hmm.
So can this solution do that? Like, can I set up kind of style sheets so when I start doing this, everything looks the way that it's supposed to look? And,
yeah.
my users are used to?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you can see, you're asking about like style sheets. Can I style things in different ways?
Yeah. Always have
so you can see like this header bar here is the same whether I'm on my dashboard page or my customers page, right? And my user bar. Like that's a shared component. You can absolutely do stuff like that. For sure. Yeah, sorry, hand first.
Can you explain a little bit what Auto is doing? Because I went to the ProofKit.dev and it says it's using data API, but like what else is it doing in terms of like packaging up that connection between the two? Because you need a token, you need all that stuff, so presumably just like packaging all that.
So yeah, so the role of Auto in the middle here is the data API proxy. So we are using the data API to get from your node server-side code to your FileMaker server. And Auto is doing the token management for the data API. So you get a single data API key, which you saw me select at the beginning, and then you don't have to worry about session tokens. Auto does that for you, right? Now it is possible if you want to, the under the hood of ProofKit is you can build it without Auto, but to use the ProofKit tools and have it set it up for you, it's going to use Auto mostly for setup because it's going to show you what files are on your server and all those kinds of things. That's where Auto is also playing a role. But in the actual running code, it's just the proxy. Yeah.
I know you're going to potentially talk about it in a web viewer. Does that then get around the cores issue potentially? Like if you're trying to talk to data API from a web viewer,
getting around the cores, yeah, like browser cores issues. Yeah. I think it does. Yeah, but actually, yes, it does. Sorry, I had to think for a second. So let me actually show that real quick because a web viewer app is built a little differently. Let's see, can you just show up here? So I already pre-built this, obviously, but what you can see here is this is basically the same app. If I make it a little bigger, I don't have the infinite scrolling turned on, but I can still do things like edit the code. And if I were to open the customer's layout in a new window, you'll see that it still edits things right away, right? So if poor Meryl is getting her name changed so many times, right? It's still doing that kind of thing. But what this is doing is inside the web viewer, it's actually using the web viewer bridge, the perform JavaScript in web viewer. It's doing some callback things, and it's using the execute data API script step. So the code is actually going to look very similar, but we don't have to worry about authentication in a web viewer because we're already signed into FileMaker to get to that web viewer. And then this code is packaged up and just running in a giant HTML field and loading into here.
Is
right?
that bi-directional then? If you change
It
right, you're
is,
back to McPhillip?
well,
Because how-
it doesn't do the live updates, though, because we are still in a web context. So if I change this here, I wouldn't see that change immediately, right? You can set up things like polling. There are ways to do it. It's hard. It's a little harder in FileMaker, but if I reload, I should see it come through, I think. Anyway, this one's a little bit different, because this is running stuff, but I just swap out, force the reload, and there's change. So yeah. Normally we build web viewer apps this is the embedded model on the docs. There's a whole comparison of how do I deploy a web viewer app. There's 3 different methods that we outline, and this is the one where this can work offline, and it lives in an HTML field in your solution. So you don't need browser stuff. Yeah.
What about buttons? Like if you wanted a button to export that as an Excel or a CSV file?
Yes, that is fairly trivial to do, and especially if you ask AI to do it for you, you'd be surprised. I don't think I can demo it right now, but absolutely, yeah, we've built features like that all the time. Yeah.
Is there anything inside of this system that would help with creating the website?
Anything that would help with forms. Yeah, I meant to add more templates to this. The truth is that AI is doing so much of the work. I'm wondering how beneficial the templates are in the long term. But absolutely, so if you're talking about ProofKit specifically, no, not at this time. Other than maybe the authentication flow, you could see how those forms are working and maybe reverse engineer it from there. But that is another, and there is form fields in this table, right? But it's probably not exactly what you're looking for. So I don't know if that answers your question, but have it pop up in. Yeah, so you can absolutely do those things. Again, ProofKit is just the learning tool. It's just the base layer to get you started and to orchestrate this. Make the data available, get it connected to FileMaker. The rest of it, and you'll see I should actually go here to proofkit.dev and show you this. Because if you go to this learning resources page, this will guide you through, if you're brand new to web development, okay, start with Git and GitHub. Start with what is PNPM and NPM in your code editor. And you can move on to see the kinds of things I suggest you learn. There's a few recommended tutorials in here, for example. And so really what you'll want to do, if you don't see it in ProofKit, is say, okay, how do I add a card modal to Next.js? Or the other thing is if the motivation page has a list of all of the pieces of the web app that we've chosen, right? So again, I say that ProofKit is this opinionated method of how Proof would build a web app, right? It's not the only way, but if you're overwhelmed by all those choices out there, you can start with this and say, okay, Next.js is my web framework, Mantine is this UI library, so I should actually show you this as well. This is, when we've introduced this to other members of our team, they've described this as just as easy as dragging and dropping the fields onto the layout, right? Because the components are all right here. This is a whole component framework that gives you all the inputs, date pickers, overlays, here's a drawer off to the side or so on, or a modal. This would be kind of like you want a card modal thing. There's a form library within Mantine here. So this is a really vast, is why we included it. Because we use it a lot, and it's got all these components, really easy to customize, right? So, and then a few other things, obviously, that are all in here. So, does that help a bit? I saw you next, yeah.
Have you done any speed tests with regards to distance? So if your VM is in California, you've got a rogue user in New York, You know, if he opens up the data using FileMaker, it's gonna be, pretty slow, no fun. I found it's faster with WebDirect. What's it
Yeah.
like here? Have you done any kind of
Yeah.
testing, speed testing?
So as far as the speed test and like distance relation to the server, all of that really depends on where your web server is located. So typically what you want is your web server, which remember is not necessarily your FileMaker server. It might be on Vercel instead, but it depends on where you deploy it. You want your web server and your database to be close together. And so like if that's true, then you're only going to have one round trip from wherever your user is to the web server, and then the web server back and forth to the database is fast, one response back to your user. Is typically how that works. And Vercel lets you choose, hey, which region do I want my serverless functions to run in to help that kind of speed. But that brings up another good point that I wanted to mention, and then I forgot it. So we'll move on. Sorry. See someone else over there? Yeah.
Yeah, last question a little bit. So it was going a little quick, and maybe I missed something. But when the URL got derived that actually deployed to, like how customizable is that? Like say if someone within my domain had like.
You're talking about the customization of this big giant URL here?
Right.
Yes. You can make this domain whatever you want. Yeah, I did not show that, but that's just a feature of Vercel. You set up some DNS records, and this goes to any URL that you set it up to. Not an issue at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Did you, is that all you wanted to show us from the point of view of the web viewer?
Basically the web viewer, I wanted to show that you can build, I mean, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of things I could show. This is a web viewer. This is a FileMaker layout, right? I was just in FileMaker. It's just a full page web viewer, right? And if you've used auto deploy, like that's another example of like what can be done with a web viewer as your interface, right? Maybe I should pull that up as an example. Auto deploy. Yeah, there's documentation about that, and you'll see because if you use the CLI to walk through it. So this is auto deploy. This is our tool for managing how you make deployments using auto, right? And it's a relatively complex thing, but this is a FileMaker file. I think I've locked it down, but you can unlock it, right? And it's just a web viewer. All right, the entire app is just one web viewer, and within this web viewer, you can do navigation with back arrows, right? And you can have these collapsible sidebars, and you can have like built-in light mode, dark mode, right? These are the kind of web features, but this entire interface, the data is in the FileMaker file that this is attached to, right? So I could have this whole app could now be an offline app, right? And so what we want to show with ProofKit, and if you run through the CLI, or if you find me after, we can go through it together. I would anyone who would like really wants to dive into this, by the way, I'd love to sit with you if we have any time, and I can try to help you get started if you need it. But then you develop in here, and it walks you through all that. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing it might be helpful to show. People talked about forms and how to add a card window. If you maybe show the logging component, just what that looks like when you start to get into the application.
Okay, sure. So he asked to see the forms. So if I go to, I'll look here on my files. This will also show a bit of routing. So in my app directory, auth login, this is also the URL path. So app is the root, and then auth/login/page is where the core is. So you can see that I've got the form is its own component. So this is an easy way that this is just a React thing. You can import components from everywhere. And I can just command click on here. And this is the form. So I've got a form tag with HTML. And all of these are Mantine components that build the form. So here's a paper is kind of like a box, that makes it stand out. And then I've got a stack which helps vertically space everything. And then wrapping my text input and my password input. And I just have to pass this form.register email and password from my form here. So it's maybe a little deep, but again, the cool thing is, and I really can't stress this enough, if you use a tool like Cursor, which is granted not free, because AI has costs, if you could go in here and say, how does this form work, right? And you can learn this way, right? So if anything that I'm showing you is like, I'm so lost, you might need to go back to the tutorials or just ask like this, right? And you get the answers right away, and it tries to explain it. And then if you don't understand anything, you can keep asking and chatting, right? So it's a really powerful tool. Or just use ChatGPT to like copy and paste this code in there and say, what is this code doing, right?
Well, and when you said, if you want to reverse engineering, this is where you would.
This is how you do it. Exactly. Exactly this. I'm trying to think of that point I was going to say earlier. Okay. When you talked about databases being close to the user and stuff like that, that's the other cool thing that I don't think people always realize about FileMaker as your backend, right? Apparently none of you thought this, but a lot of times I hear, well, isn't FileMaker like not fast enough to handle that, right? Or you think it's not, right? But really, any database that talks to the web, your database is the bottleneck. Whether it's FileMaker or Postgres or anything else, your database is always your slowest part. And so with any database, FileMaker no exception, you need some caching in the middle, right? That does some of this stuff, that says don't hit the FileMaker database too much. And there's lots of, I know that Todd Geist has done some sessions on this in the past. I don't have any offhand, but that caching piece of it, which Next.js has a lot of things built in to help with it. I didn't really go through them. But that applies to any database, right? And so what I like to tell lots of people, because if they think FileMaker isn't good enough, and I say, no, let's start there. Because you're already in FileMaker, you already have your data there. It's too much work to move it out. You don't have to, let's just use it. Let's use what we got and use this amazing tool. And what a lot of times you'll find is it's perfectly acceptable for everything you need it to do, especially when you add caching, which you should do with any database, right? So anyway, that was my other point I wanted to make.
You're using Data API or OData?
This is using Data API.
Yeah.
Yes. This is using the ProofKit library. So I could find it in my package, but it's in package.json. It is called ProofKit/FMDAPI right here. If you can see that highlighted. So yeah, so really this is also the FMDAPI library here is a lot of the secret sauce of ProofKit, because it handles, if some of you, I see some smiles, if you've used this before in other web apps, you'll know that it will generate the TypeScript types to get the field names into your code, right? So if that was the coolest feature of this demo to you, and maybe you already have some web experience, you probably don't need ProofKit, you just need FMDAPI library, right? Because it'll help you, and the TypeScript thing is what allowed the AI to understand. Does anyone want me to go understand, explain how that worked? Or is that too technical? Yeah.
Say with regard to, can you explain how you control what Data API does, like if you wanted to run a script or do multi-tenancy?
How to control the Data API?
Like in other words, when you added customers, I'm assuming that under the hood you're saying go to this layout, get the data from customers.
Right. So I mean, ultimately what's happening is we've defined some schemas in the code base, and this is what FMDAPI uses, our tool, to build it. So I know that the API customer's layout is what I want. I want value lists to be allowed empty, and then it generates the schemas from there. And then in my actions, I have a fetch data function. And this one's complicated because it has the whole infinite table thing where you can do querying and sorting, and all that has to happen server side. But ultimately, I get back. I did down here customers layout dot find, right? Or you can do customers layout dot get by ID, or you whatever. All these functions are here to get at that data there. Yeah, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. You in the back, yeah.
So that get by ID, is that how you then just cherry pick that one?
Right. Yeah. Where you do a find with a specific ID because you have to get the record ID and all that. But yeah, that's all through here. Or we have a list function as well. That's all through here. If you look at this layout, this is generated code from the tool, so that if you change field names, you can just rerun the generate command, and it will re-pick up the new field names. And suddenly, because the code changed under the hood, it'll recognize little red squirrelies that say, "Oh, you misspelled this field name," and that's how AI was able to fix that error we found, right? Because AI knows how to understand TypeScript errors, right? Yes.
Does that pick up new fields in the table too?
Yes, it'll pick up new fields in the table, change fields, remove fields.
You have to add them to your data API.
So you add them to your layout, and then you rerun your type gen command, and it pulls it all in. And then the other reason why the data didn't load at all, at least initially, is because this is built into this is a runtime validation, right? So what the data API package here is doing is as it requests data from FileMaker via the data API, it validates that the JSON that it gets back from FileMaker is the same as the JSON, the types that it's generated. And if anything fails that validation test because you changed a field name or removed a field, usually is the two things that cause that, then it will fail entirely to show you any data because it's not valid data, right? And therefore, otherwise you might have weird side effects of like some fields worked and some didn't, right? And it can cause very strange errors in your code base. But because we validate it, we got no data loading at all, which is a bit safer, and you can still trap for those kinds of errors. And that's why that happened. And then by just rerunning TypeGen, we were able to fix it. So I'm almost out of time, and I would love to stay for more questions, but I do have to ask you to please rate my session. I've given you a QR code because I want to win the prize for the most session evaluations. Can you help me do that? Actually, I don't know if there's a prize, but you can just scan this, or you can open through the to the app and rate my session. I thank you all so much for coming, and please find me after or in the hallway if you want to know more.